We are replacing the air compressor, which is right here, and this is going to be on a 2007 Freightliner Columbia with a Caterpillar C13 engine with a KCB serial number. This is an A-cert engine. The reason that I'm replacing it is because I'm getting a lot of oil in the airlines, and you can see places like this right over here are a dead giveaway. I actually cleaned this up right back here. That's a really bad looking spot. So I'm over here at the air dryer, and you can see on the bottom of it where it shoots out air, there'll be a pretty good amount of oil that builds up when that compressor is going bad. And in my case, it likes to shoot it over here to the lower radiator hose. I've actually cleaned this up, but man, it was really caked up. I took off the cartridge and it was pretty filled up with oil. And when this thing gets full, it's going to be pushing oil through your airlines because it's got nowhere else to go. This thing's full, and you'll start to see it on a lot of places. Okay, so here's the new air compressor. Now, it took me a while to find this part because the part that Caterpillar shows is completely different than this, and it actually has different fittings. I'm assuming they make some sort of adapter kit. We couldn't find it though, and I'm not willing to go through the hassle of figuring out how all that works. I think what they ended up doing was switching this from a 2-piston to a single piston, which is probably better, but I just want to go with what the truck has. So it's nice and easy. It's just a quick out, quick in. Also, these instructions say that you need to install the inline check valve in the inlet hose to the air compressor, but that is only going to be for C13s with an LEE serial number. Mine is a KCB, so this doesn't apply. If you do have one of those, then you're going to have to follow these directions. Otherwise, they might not give you a core return, which is going to suck because that's like $1,700, boys. Yeah, these things are not cheap. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is drain our antifreeze at least down to the level of the air compressor because we got coolant lines that run into it. There's one right there. This runs from the thermostat housing, and then we got one back here, and this one runs around the engine and ties into the back there on the head. We're going to drain out probably 5 or 6 gallons. Draining the antifreeze is pretty easy on these Columbias. You just get you a hose, something that's pretty flexible, and you stick it on the end of this little nipple here on the bottom of the radiator right there. And then once you got the hose on the nipple, you'll come underneath here and you'll turn this piece counterclockwise until you start seeing antifreeze come out of there. Now, I like to use a bucket that's really short. That way it can get underneath the radiator, because when you start to loosen that drain, fluid will come out of the drain a little bit and then eventually start coming out of the hose. So you want to get a bucket that will catch that fluid. And as far as the tool to get that loose, I'm sure Freightliner makes some kind of special tool, but I just use a wood chisel. Works great. And there it goes. Now, if you want to, you can take the cap off of the overflow tank and it will speed up the process a little bit. I think we got enough drained out. We got probably 7 gallons. And you want to make sure wherever you put these buckets that you put something over them, because a lot of bugs and dirt and crap can get down in that antifreeze. And also, you don't want dogs coming along and drinking out of that sweet juice, boys. Okay, so we want to get some crap out of the way here. First thing to go is going to be this hose here. Connects from the charger air cooler to your intake. Pull it off, and I think that's going to be everything. I don't think we need to pull these radiator braces off. For this clamp is going to be a 1/2 inch, and then this one over here is going to be 7/16. There we go.
Thank you for watching the video. Please hit subscribe. It takes a long time to make these videos. I try to be as detailed as I can possibly be because a lot of people leave out the small details, and it leaves you wondering exactly how to do some of these jobs.
It's always easiest on this hose to pull it right off the intake, because then you can pull it this way and then you can pull it this way, as opposed to if you take just the hose off, you're fighting to pull this side off and this side off. It just comes off really easily like this. Plus, it gives you more room to work with. You know what? We're going to pull this steering shaft off too. It's going to make things a lot easier. And all you got to do is take this bolt right here out, and there's going to be a notch in that shaft. So you pull the bolt out, and then boom, it's just going to slide out of there. I like to unscrew the nut to the end of the bolt and then tap it. That way you won't be tearing up the threads, you know, if you pull the nut all the way off, and then you can pull it out, and then the shaft will come right off there. And you don't have to worry about marking anything on there. It only goes on one way. You'll see that later. So now I can just put it out of the way. Makes life a lot easier. Okay, we got these lines sort of out of the way, enough to where we can at least work on this. We'll bungee them up, get them out of the way. And I forgot also I need to take loose the breather tube. You just take loose this clamp, pull out, and then it'll pull up. It'll pull out of the clamp down here at the bottom.
If you guys got any questions for me, drop them in the comments section. I will reply, and I will try to help you as best as I possibly can.
There we go.
I learned this trick from watching a YouTube channel called Adept Ape. This guy is an expert at Caterpillar engines. Anyway, all you do is just take a Ziploc bag and a rubber band and put the bag around the tube and then the rubber band around the bag. Pretty easy, and it keeps crap out of the opening. If the Ziploc bag isn't big enough, you can always use something such as a paper towel or a rag.
And we also got a bungee and bungeed up those electrical wires. Not too tight though, because they are brittle. So you don't want to twist them around, you know, because they can break. Almost forgot to empty out the air tanks on this truck. You would find out really quick if you start taking that compressor off that it's still got a buildup of air, because these lines right here, these are air lines. Now on these compressors, CAT doesn't include a lot of things. Obviously they don't include the governor. They actually included the gasket with the governor, which I was shocked. But they're not going to include these little O-rings. So you want to be sure you get all this stuff. And you want to make sure you swap out parts when you put the new compressor on, like this little valve here on the back. Just a little thing, you want to look it over. So these two air lines, they're going to be pretty easy. This is just a 9/16 wrench you use to take these off. Pretty simple. Once you get them loosened up, they'll usually come off by hand. Just like this. It's got a crush sleeve inside of it. Not none of the new style with the quick connect bull crap that sucks. These hardly ever fail. And there it is, boys, right there. Do the same for this line over here. And you can't get these mixed up. Obviously this one's going to go down into right there, and then this one's going to go kind of horizontally. But if they are similar, you're going to have to mark them for sure. I just usually use like some blue tape and just mark them. Pull this out, and there we go. And we can put these out of the way. Might have to get like a zip tie or something, or even better, just a rubber band. That works great. So what is next? This is going to be coolant.
This is a coolant line that runs to the transmission.
This one's coolant, and then we got on the bottom here oil. Oh, and obviously this line here.
On a lot of these parts, you can loosen them up and take them off once you have the compressor removed. But I will say it's a lot easier to go ahead and loosen them up and not completely remove them while the compressor is still on the engine. And the reason for that is if you remove the compressor, then you're going to have to find a way to stabilize it with either like a huge vise or just having somebody stand on it while you try to loosen up those parts. So, and I think this piece might be the relief valve, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. And I loosened it up with a 1-inch wrench. I pulled it off just to show you, and it will need a new O-ring.
Now this next part is going to require a BFW. If you can't figure out what that means, well, this is a 1.5-inch wrench, boys. So let's go ahead and take this off. Nice. I didn't over tighten these parts whenever I did the compressor. I did the compressor probably, I would say 6 years ago. And these things generally, at least according to Google, only last about between 4 and 6 years. I think I've put about 400,000 miles on the truck since then. They don't last forever, that's for sure. And I think the price on this thing has like doubled. Some of the prices have tripled. It's crazy how expensive these parts have gotten. I think that's about it. Let's go ahead and loosen the other end up. Now this other side is going to be a BFW too. This is 1.25 inches. She came loose pretty easily too. Well, unfortunately I ran out of thread, so I can't turn this anymore. So we're going to have to take it loose down here. Okay, we got this loose enough. We can turn it by hand. Well, she's long-winded. I guess that's it. Still need to go a little ways on this side. Jeez. All right, she fell out of there. You know, it was in there like that. But we're going to go ahead and take this piece out, and then we're going to reconnect it to this. That way it's going to be a little easier to put it back on there. Okay, so we're moving this elbow around the world counterclockwise. All right, we're almost there. Now this part looks like it has oil flowing in and out of it. I don't think it's supposed to. Your oil's on the bottom side of this compressor. When they get wore out, you can get oil in the air in the coolant. I mean, all kinds of weird crap can happen with these compressors, and you can get cross-contamination.
Hey guys, if you could take this time to subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate it. Other than seeing oil in your air, another sign that the compressor might be going bad is over-pressurization of the coolant system, and you'll be able to tell that by seeing coolant coming out of the overflow hose or out of the cap directly. And that tells you that air is getting in to the coolant because of the compressor. Usually that's going to be because of a bad head gasket on the compressor itself, or it could be a bad head gasket on the engine.
Just remember to take pictures of this stuff while you take it off. With me, I got video. Of course, you can do that too, because a lot of times these parts are hard to remember where they go back exactly, you know, because this part, maybe it could go here, or maybe it could go over here. I also like to lay my parts out in the order that they came off. So first, second, third, fourth. So I got a new governor for this, and we'll go ahead and get that swapped out once we pull the compressor off, because it's going to require a gasket, some of these little fittings. Now let's go ahead and pull that coolant line off. Before we do that, I want to go ahead and put something underneath here, because you're going to get some spillage, boys, no matter what. Okay, so let's take the coolant supply line off. This is the one that flows from the thermostat housing, and this is going to be with a 15/16. There we go. Pull it off. There comes the coolant. Hey, not a whole lot. That's not bad. So that means we drained enough antifreeze out of there to where we're not going to get much spillage. Now let's go ahead and pull this line off. This is with 1.5 inches, and this line is our coolant line that runs to the transmission. Let's see. Oh, nice. So far this stuff's coming off pretty easily, boys. Oh yeah, I forgot we got a clip over here. Probably need to take this loose, because this is probably not going to move much when we get it loosened off of there. There's that. Yep. Okay, that's probably, what do y'all think that is? 11/16? I don't know. Let's see if I was right. Oh, was I? Wait, I think so. Golly, that thing's on there. Yeah, I had to use 2 hands for that, boys. Had to use 2 hands. Pull that out, keep the washer on there. Let's see if it moves around a little easier now. Oh yeah. Okay, I think that's out of the way. We got her kind of pulled up with the bungee. Got our air lines pulled back again. Oh yeah, I need to put this in the order it came off. So while I'm down here, I'll show you guys, some of these pieces don't have O-rings like this one. It just has a flange. It's just a compression style fitting. See that flange right there? And it will fit against this piece right here. See where it's angled at a 45? And they'll fit tightly together once you screw it down. And then you have this other style here with an O-ring, which we'll replace, and it just tightens up against this. I almost forgot on these lines to put the Ziploc bag on there, and this little trick works great. And then I got this line zip tied up to the radiator support bracket. Same with the transmission fluid line here, just got some rubber bands. Okay, so this is going to be a 7/8. Since we're working from the back side, we want to go down, we want to go clockwise to loosen it up. That can be tricky sometimes. You get used to it. Pretty easy. We're going to have to take this fitting off and put it on the new one. Got to remember to do all of that stuff before you return it to CAT. Or you're going to be going back to CAT and getting parts like this. Now, I recently did a video on this part right here. This is an expensive part. They made it out of steel for some reason instead of stainless, so it will rust. CAT does not paint their parts anymore for the most part, especially refurbished parts. I would assume they do for brand new parts, but I don't know. I don't buy brand new parts from Cat because they're too expensive. There's a clamp here in the back that holds it in. You don't have a whole lot of movement there, and it makes it to where it's going to be really tight trying to get this thing in there. Just go ahead and remove the elbow right now, and then whenever you put the compressor in, put it in first and then put the elbow back on there, and then just tighten this back up. Okay, so this is going to be a 7/8 here at the bottom, counterclockwise. Pretty easy. Man, that gets right in the way. That nut, there we go. Now we can pull it back a little more, and almost there it is. And that's going to require a new O-ring as well. Now they make a kit you can buy that has all the rings in it. I went to Cat and they said, well, the kit is in Waco. It's not going to be here till Tuesday, which was like 5 days. So what I did was I put down each one of those parts, the numbers individually, and I was like, well, can you just look them up and see if you have all those parts in stock? And they did. So that worked a lot better. Go ahead and set this right here, another elbow. Okay, this is the last line. This is the oil feed, and this is going to be a 9/16. Go counterclockwise. This one is kind of a pain to get back on. Pretty easy to get off though. Now a lot of these lines you're going to want to inspect them as you pull them off to make sure they don't need to be replaced, because right now is an excellent time to replace them, because they do get rusty, they do get corroded. Well, I'm running out of thread, so let's go ahead and take it loose down here at the bottom. I knew that was going to happen. Kind of a pain to get to. There it is. Remember to turn it clockwise because we're working from the other side, the back side, so you don't want to be turning it the wrong way. It's easy to strip these suckers out. It feels pretty loose. Almost there. And remember, this elbow is going to have to be swapped out. You don't want to leave this one on there. And it also has an O-ring on it that needs to be replaced right there. Make sure that you remember there's a bracket here in the back right there. You got 2 bolts connected to the compressor, 2 to the block. We're going to take that whole bracket out right now, so then when we reinstall the compressor, we'll reinstall it with the 3 bolts, and then we'll put that bracket back on there. The ones here on the back side are going to be 1/2 inch. Oh yeah, fight to the end. There it is. Get the washer. Yay. Okay, so those next 2 bolts that are down connected to the block are going to be 5/8. Now if you don't have one of these style extensions that make it to where your socket will move around like this, oh man, you need to invest in one. They're awesome. That's how they look. Kind of like a wobbly.
Oddly enough, the top bolt had a 5/8 inch head on it, and the bottom one was 11/16. But the actual bolt itself, they were both the same, so I thought that was kind of weird. But here's where that extension really shines that I was telling you about, because I had to kind of hit it at an angle, and that flexibility that it allows really shines. So the brace can only go back in there one way, so I don't think you need to mark how it goes back in. But as far as the bolts, I would mark where those different bolts go.
So now all we got to do is take the compressor off. It's 3 bolts, and you want to be sure you pull the bottom one off first and then the top, because if you pull the top 2 first off, it's going to want to bow back, and it's going to put a lot of stress on that bottom bolt, and you can actually chip out where it connects to that housing. You don't want that, boys. You do not want that. And also you want to make sure that you support it as you take out those last 2 bolts, because it's going to want to fall. It's going to want to come out of there prematurely before the thread is completely out of the hole. It can easily strip those threads.
So for some reason, 18mm is the size that works best on these bolts. 11/16 is too big and 5/8 is too small. I thought Cat was standard, but I guess sometimes they're metric. I don't know. But if this bolt was tight, I would be tempted to use an extension. But instead of that, you can use a dead blow hammer or a rubber mallet, and you can shock unload it just by tapping on it. And it's not as stressful as using a big long extension. And I learned that from watching Adept Ape. So this is just to demonstrate the bolt wasn't actually tight, but I thought I would just show you guys how it works and
There it is right there.
This is the exact length of extensions or just one extension that you want to have for removing that rear bolt, because you don't have a whole lot of room to work with. It's real easy to be too short or too long on it, and then you can't even get your ratchet in there. I believe the length of those two extensions together is 9 inches. Now, I did find that it works better to shove the extension towards the back of the truck first and then kind of push it forward towards the bolt. And then once you have it on the bolt head, go ahead and connect up your ratchet and just loosen it up. Don't pull it out yet.
So there's where the socket came through to the bolt, and then I fed it through and right there. So let's see if she'll loosen up with one hand. Yep. Okay, that's loose enough. Now the bottom one likes to hide out. You have to kind of drop the oil feed line so you can slide in the socket, and it'll go all the way to the back here. Okay, so we got her loosened up, and we want to go ahead and pull this bolt completely off because, like I said a while ago, you want to pull the bottom one off first. Anyway, there's y'all a little bit better view. This thing weighs a lot, boys. These compressors, they are heavy. All right, we got our first bolt, and just a little trick I did. You can reach your arm up under here, and you can reach underneath the compressor and spin it the rest of the way off. So now let's get these two, and we're going to start with the back one, pull it all the way off because this is the easiest one to access. So I was having issues with my microphone, that's why I'm having to do a lot of voiceover, but I did get the upper rear bolt pulled out. I got the bottom bolt pulled out. Now I'm working on the one closest to me. I like to hold the compressor from falling as I'm loosening that bolt because I don't like it just resting on the housing. You know, I'm afraid something could chip. And then once I get that bolt out, I just set it down and it'll give me another hand, and I can pull that compressor out and make sure I don't snag it on anything. Yeah, the damn thing was trying to take the oil supply line with it whenever I was pulling it out. Plus, it was hidden on this little electrical plug right here. Okay, that'll work. Before I box up this compressor and take it back to Caterpillar for the core charge, I like to go ahead and dump out all the fluids. And the reason for that is, well, I don't like to make a mess. You know, it's nothing worse than trying to carry a box that has a bunch of oil in the bottom of it, and you know, that compressor might just fall through it. And plus, I just think it's a courtesy to Caterpillar to, you know, clean it up before you take it back to them. And you never know, they might just decide not to give you that core charge back because it made a big mess when they open up the box. Okay, so now we need to make sure that we put all the parts that this piece doesn't have on it. So let's go ahead and compare the two. As you can see, the back side of them pretty much exactly the same. This side pretty much the same. Now you get up here to the governor, we're going to have to pull this one off. We're not reusing it though, but we want to go ahead and make sure that we need any parts from this because the new governor doesn't come with everything. This side looks exactly the same too, so the only thing we need to do is change out the governor. So remember what I said earlier about loosening up these fittings before you take off the part, and I should have done that on this one. I have already loosened it, but just to show you how much of a pain in the ass it is, I had to have my wife stand on it while I used this 1 3/8 inch wrench to loosen it up. So as I swap these parts, I like to go ahead and put them on the new part. You know, you don't have to go ahead and put the seal on yet. You can do that later, but this is just so you know where it goes because it's easy to lose track. So this next one is going to be a 7/8. See if we can get it. Jeez. There we go. So this part goes at the front towards the ring gear, which is going to be right here. And you got to take out this plastic piece. The best thing I found to do is use like a screwdriver and kind of peel it up, and then you can always use like a pair of pliers like I did a while ago, and a pair of vice grips. There it goes. It just came right out. Stick the new piece on there. And just like that for now. Okay, so now we need to swap governors out. You don't have to take these screws, these bolts loose. There are 3 holes right here. They just have them taped over, and that's where your air comes into or goes out of the air compressor. So you're going to have 2 bolts here on the top that use an Allen wrench. Once they come out, the governor will come off, and then you're going to have a gasket here at the bottom. Okay, so for those 2 screws, what I found works best is a 6mm. And fits in there really tight. You want something that's tight, that doesn't have a lot of leeway either way, because these are really easy to strip out. All right, boys, we got them off. There it is. So yeah, you're gonna have a gasket, and there it is right there. Still in pretty good shape. So before I got this compressor, I went ahead and made sure I had all the seals, the gaskets. The job goes a lot smoother if you just get everything you need before you do the job. That way you don't have to go back to CAT for multiple trips trying to get parts. You're probably going to be left with a few extras. We'll definitely use most of these. This piece, I don't know what it's for, but they included it for some reason. This is an important one. It's going to go on the front of the compressor. Yeah, you just kind of want to check all that before you box this up and take it back to CAT. So now we're going to reinstall this tomorrow, and I want to go ahead and spray paint it and let this spray paint dry. You don't have to, but I just don't like seeing rust on the engine parts. Plus it just looks better. I just got this at Tractor Supply. I usually put one light coat on, and then about 5 minutes later I'll put another coat. And I didn't even hit this with anything to sand it down. It'd just be too much of a pain in the ass because of all these curves and crap on it, so I'm not worried about that. All right, we're going to call that good. You just want to make sure you cover up all the holes when you do that. Cover up the front part, especially where the seal sits, and you're good to go. Just spray her down and she'll look good when you put it in the motor. We're going to get back at this tomorrow, so we'll see you guys then.